You can support In the Past Lane with a donation via Patreon or PayPal. Just go to inthepastlane.com and click on support. Thanks.
Whoa, hit the brakes. You've arrived at the #1 drive-by for American history. Welcome to The Pit Stop. Brought to you by In the Past Lane, the podcast about history and why it matters. Here's Edward T. O'Donnell, your host and historian at large.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Pit Stop, your Monday morning source for history on the go in just about 5 minutes. If you're new to the podcast, we offer this feature every Monday, in addition to our full feature episodes. Here's what happened in American history the week of October 8th, 2018. Let's start with birthdays. October 8th, 1890, that's the birthday of World War I flying ace and Medal of Honor winner Eddie Rickenbacker, who was born in Columbus, Ohio. Eddie Rickenbacker once said, "Courage is doing what you're afraid to do. There can be no courage unless you're scared." October 9th, 1903, that's the birthday of Walter O'Malley, who was born in the Bronx in New York. O'Malley was the owner of Brooklyn's beloved baseball team, the Dodgers. But in 1957, to the delight of Los Angelinos and dismay of Brooklynites, O'Malley moved the team to Los Angeles. The writer Pete Hamill, who grew up in Brooklyn, once said, "The three most evil men in the 20th century were Hitler, Stalin, and Walter O'Malley." October 11th, 1884, First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt was born in New York City. As the wife of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Eleanor Roosevelt redefined what it meant to be First Lady, speaking out on social and political issues she cared about, and writing a weekly column that was printed in hundreds of newspapers across the nation. Eleanor Roosevelt later served as a U.S. delegate to the United Nations. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "One's philosophy is not best expressed in words. It is expressed in the choices one makes." She also said, "Do what you feel in your heart to be right. You'll be criticized anyway." October 14th, 1644, that's the birthday of William Penn, who was born in London. Penn was the son of a British nobleman, but as a young man he converted to Quakerism, a decision that nearly cost him his life and caused him to spend many years in prison, since Quakerism was illegal. Penn eventually came up with a solution, the founding of the colony of Pennsylvania in 1681, as a haven for Quakers and other religious dissenters. William Penn once said, "Right is right, even if everyone is against it, and wrong is wrong, even if everyone is for it." October 14th is also the birthday of President of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was born October 14th, 1890 in Denison, Texas. During World War II, Eisenhower rose to the rank of Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Forces and played a key role in securing the Allied victory. 7 years later, he was elected President of the United States. All right, what about events? Well, October 8th, 1871, that's the anniversary of the Great Chicago Fire. The fire burned half of Chicago and killed more than 400 people. And no, it was not started by a little old lady named Mrs. O'Leary. That, good people, is a myth. October 9th, 1635, the Puritan colony of Massachusetts expelled religious dissenter Roger Williams. Williams eventually founded the colony of Rhode Island, which explicitly allowed for religious dissent. Roger Williams's ideas and policies laid the groundwork for the principle of freedom of religion enshrined in the First Amendment 150 years later. On October 11th, 1984, astronaut Kathleen Sullivan exited a doorway on the Space Shuttle Challenger to become the first woman to walk in space. On October 13th, 1892, as part of the commemoration of the 400th anniversary of the arrival of Christopher Columbus in the New World, millions of American school children recited for the first time the Pledge of Allegiance. The story behind the pledge is fascinating, and you can learn all about it in episode 13 of In the Past Lane. October 14th, 1979, some 200,000 people participated in the first Gay Rights March held in Washington, D.C. Okay, time for the last word. Let's give it to Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was born this week. In 1953, Dwight Eisenhower gave one of his most famous speeches, sometimes known as the Cross of Iron speech, in which he warned about the dangers of excess military spending. Eisenhower said, "Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, the hopes of its children. The cost of one modern heavy bomber is this: a modern brick school in more than 30 cities. It is 2 electrical power plants, each serving a town of 60,000 population. It is 2 fine, fully equipped hospitals. It is some 50 miles of concrete pavement. We pay for a single fighter with 500,000 bushels of wheat. We pay for a single destroyer with new homes that could have housed more than 8,000 people. This is not a way of life at all, in any true sense. Under the cloud of threatening war, it is humanity hanging from a cross of iron. Okay, people, that's your history fix for the week. Now put it in drive and go make your own history.